The world population at 500 million in constant balance with nature, which doesn't sound too bad until you realize that we've got over 6 billion people in the world, and if we're going to maintain the world population at 500 million in constant balance with nature, we're going to have to kill off about 90% or more of the world's population.
Like the Masonic dedication stone at Denver Airport, which has a time capsule buried beneath it, the Georgia Guide stones also feature a capstone with a time capsule buried beneath it. New York City is the next stop on our Seeing is Believing tour. The world's largest cathedral is a New York City landmark called St. John the Divine. It was built with funding from the Grand Master of the Masons of the state of New York. Using the art style of the grotesque, this sculpture next to the cathedral features sun worship, bizarre mythical creatures, and the upside-down head of Satan. There is a John Lennon quote that says, "One day the world will live as one." On the western facade of the cathedral, stonemasons have sculpted a chilling depiction of the collapse of the Twin Towers and the destruction of New York City and its landmarks. This scene was created in 1997, 4 years before the destruction of the Twin Towers on 9/11. Other recognizable skyscrapers are the Chrysler Building and the Citigroup Center. The cathedral's pillar on the left shows the Brooklyn Bridge crumbling, cars and buses falling into the churning waters, and the Statue of Liberty sinking. Beneath this horrifying prophecy is the New York Stock Exchange, with street people selling all around it. The pillar on the right depicts the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, riding white, red, black, and pale horses that symbolize conquest, war, famine, and death. Another pillar depicts the birth of the Antichrist, who is surrounded by mummies. Below the birth is a lamb with its legs tied. The book of Revelation refers to the Antichrist as the beast, coming up out of the earth and having 2 horns like a lamb. Right below the tied lamb is a spiral vortex, symbolizing a change of consciousness. Below it are people worshiping the energy vortex of the Antichrist figure. The cathedral pillar on the left is the Jewish Kabbalah's Tree of Life. The Kabbalah is linked to the occult practices and symbolism of Freemasonry. Standing above the Kabbalistic Tree of Life is a robed man, pictured on the right. Only one eye is exposed, which symbolizes the satanic all-seeing eye. Our second stop in New York City is the United Nations headquarters, which was built in 1945 and financed largely by John D. Rockefeller. Inside UN headquarters is an ominous meditation room. The custodian of the meditation room is Lucis Trust Company. At one time, the Lucis Trust was located at 666 United Nations Plaza and was formerly named Lucifer Publishing Company. The Rockefeller-funded UN Meditation Room is 33 feet long and 18 feet wide. 18 feet is 6 plus 6 plus 6. The small, dimly lit, windowless room was built in the shape of a pyramid that is laying on its side. At the center of the room is a 4-foot-high, black, casket-shaped stone slab which weighs 6.5 tons. And is extremely magnetic and rests on a concrete pillar. The pillar descends beneath the floor into the bedrock and taps into the Earth's hyperdimensional energies to induce a state of altered consciousness. Not far from the meditation room is the United Nations Security Council chamber. This is the emergency room of the UN, where the world leaders meet when there is a threat to peace. They decide the fate of nations. Even though Israel has over 200 uninspected nuclear weapons and has violated dozens of resolutions, No sanctions are ever imposed because of the United States' veto powers. Notice the giant mural that towers over the Security Council room. The central focus of the UN mural is the phoenix bird that has risen. The phoenix bird is a symbol of Lucifer. Egyptians believed that the phoenix symbolized a god who rose to heaven in the form of a morning star like Lucifer after his fire immolation of death and rebirth. Notice that the phoenix bird is not standing above his own ashes. He is standing above his old skin. Like a snake, he has shed his old skin and is revealing himself as God at the center of the mural. At the top left, there is a church steeple without a cross. The missing cross symbolizes the death of Christianity. Below, a woman receives the rays of the sun god, while the man in front of her plays Pan's flute. To their right are two pyramid symbols and people joined together by a long blue serpent-like cloth. Below the risen phoenix, a sword is driven through a dragon beast. This represents the killing of old beliefs and religions that depicted Lucifer as a beast. The New World religion worships him as beautiful. Behind the phoenix, the ghostly figures of the walking dead are stepping into a void. They symbolize depopulation. On the right panel, the pale horse from the book of Revelation is the bringer of death to humanity through weapons, hunger, and disease. The man is releasing him. The chained black man represents slavery, while the top panel of the mural shows a technologically advanced white race who control industry, art, and science. In this post-apocalyptic mural, the military man standing on the tail of the beast represents worldwide military power. He tips his helmet to the elite, who are climbing out from underground cities where they safely hid from the apocalypse. In the main oval panel above the phoenix bird, a woman is holding flowers. She is the bride in a wedding ceremony. Who are these newlyweds that are kneeling submissively beneath the serpent in the overhead tree? Could the newlyweds symbolize William and Kate? The serpent in human form is tempting the little girl Eve, who accepts the apple. On the right side of the top panel, a reptilian green creature with scaly skin is dancing with a naked woman while musicians entertain him. The general message of the UN's Phoenix Rising mural is that humanity is stepping into a new Luciferic reality. Beneath this disturbingly prophetic mural, world leaders make global decisions that affect the lives of nearly 7 billion people. What's hard for most people to grasp is that our elected government leaders are involved in an apocalyptic scheme to enslave the masses under a world government dictatorship. How do these leaders sleep at night? How do they live with themselves? The answer can be found at the last stop on our Seeing is Believing tour, the Bohemian Grove Club in Monte Rio, California. It's an elite retreat for high-ranking politicians, billionaire banksters, businessmen, and Hollywood executives. What's the attraction? 2 weeks of partying, druid worship, and child sacrifice rituals. Members include George Bush Jr. and Sr., Newt Gingrich, Henry Kissinger, Dick Cheney, Alan Greenspan, and the list goes on. One thing is certain. These men don't believe in heaven and an afterlife for good behavior. They dress in long robes and gather before a 40-foot stone owl of the god Moloch, where they conduct a mock child sacrifice ritual. It's called the cremation of care ritual to purge members of their guilt. The ritual symbolically burns up their cares and clears their conscience of the diabolical crimes they have committed against humanity. Adolf Hitler has a competitor for the title of the most evil man in human history. His competitor's name is Sabbatai Zevi. Sabbatai Zevi declared himself to be the Jewish Messiah in the year 1666. This false Messiah led the largest Messiah movement in Jewish history and attracted more than half the population of European Jews. How did he do it? By promising to return the Jews to their ancestral homeland in Palestine. Sabbatai Zevi made everything that was holy unholy. He rejected the rules of the Jewish holy books and every standard of Jewish decency. There would be no more guilt or sin or right or wrong, no more sexual taboos, no more 10 Commandments, no more fasting. Instead, there would be feasting. Sabbatai Zevi's immoral leadership finally fell from grace when the Sultan of Turkey threatened him with torture unless he converted to Islam. Sabbatai converted to Islam, but he brought his infectious evil theology with him. 1 century later, Jacob Frank proclaimed himself to be the reincarnation of Sabbatai Zevi and the living Messiah for all Jews. Not even Sabbatai Zevi was as evil as Jacob Frank and his disciples. Jacob Frank rejected traditional Judaism. He reversed the truth and told his followers, since we can't all be saints, let's all be sinners. The best way to imitate God, said Frank, is to cross every boundary, transgress every taboo, and mix, as God did, the sacred with the profane. Orgies, incest, rape, and sexual intercourse with children, including sodomy on young boys, were no longer sinful. In 1773, Jacob Frank traveled to Frankfurt, Germany, the birthplace of the Illuminati. That's where he formed an unholy alliance with Adam Weishaupt and Mayor Amschel Rothschild's banking dynasty. The ambition of the Rothschild dynasty was to win control of the world's gold, central banks, and wealth. The Rothschilds sent John Jacob Astor, Jacob Schiff, and Paul Warburg to America, where they influenced the privatization of the Federal Reserve banking system and the dismantling of the American Constitution. The goal of Weishaupt and the Jesuits was to take control of the Vatican and its hierarchy of Catholic clergy. Weishaupt formed the Order of the Illuminati and infiltrated the Freemasonic lodges with his doctrine until every Masonic lodge in every nation accepted it. The Frankist goal was the destruction and replacement of Jewish ethics with a satanic religion based on the exact opposite of Jewish teachings. When this unholy alliance of conscienceless men was seeded, a cancerous war against humanity erupted. With Rothschild financing, Jacob Frank became fabulously wealthy and was put in charge of spreading a Luciferian theology that would be the hidden hand behind future wars and revolutions. Jacob Frank's followers were called Sabbatean Frankists. They practiced witchcraft and occult rituals, including animal and human sacrifices. Lucifer, they declared, was the true God. The Sabbatean Frankists expanded their movement by masquerading as converts to other religions. They converted to Catholicism and to Islam, where they embedded themselves and spread their Luciferian infection as closeted crypto-Jews. The Frankists traded their wives and daughters with members and with powerful non-members who they needed to seduce into their cult. Jewish professor Gershon Scholem called Jacob Frank one of the most frightening men in Jewish history. By 1776, Orthodox Jewish rabbis and leaders rejected Jacob Frank and the pagan invasion of evil that took hold in 18th century Europe. They declared